that's not my favorite time of day. I know, I got it. I did, that's so dark. Wow, my favorite time of day is, I think getting up in the morning and having a day to look forward to. Coffee, yeah, thanks.
What's your question?
Hi, Tony. Did the name Goldwyn make it harder for you, do you think, as you progressed? Because the way you describe being an actor is what all other actors go through. So was it a hindrance to being Goldwyn?
Yeah, I was saying before, it was a funny thing. It may have just been my hang-up, frankly. But it felt really hard at the beginning, and then it became this extraordinary blessing as I got a little bit older. In my 20s, when I was starting out, first of all, there was such a high bar for success, so I felt a lot of pressure about that. And then I felt, whether it was true or not, that people sort of looked at me as a Hollywood, like, oh yeah, right, okay, sure, you want to be an actor, right, okay. That I felt I had to doubly prove myself. And again, that may have been not at all what people were thinking, but that was my concern, that I felt I had to, prove my mettle. And so it did feel like a bit of a burden for a few years. As soon as I started, I sort of tackled that head on, and as soon as I started to have some success, particularly after Ghost, and then even more when I became a director, I found myself a part of this legacy that was extraordinary, and I feel so lucky to be a part of it and to be sort of the third generation of something that my grandfather started. And I'm doing my thing in a different way than he or my father or my brother, who's incredibly successful, do. Or now my little brother's in the business, and just now my kids, my daughter's got her first job. She's a writer, and she's on Supergirl, which is a new show that's coming out this year on CBS. And so Anna now is off. So like this multi-generational thing in our family, and everybody following their passions, and my wife's career, which is very successful. I just feel very, very lucky to be a part of it, so it's very cool.
We have a question over here.
Hi there. I was going to ask you a question. Maybe kind of controversial, but it was a conversation that we had. It's great that you and Liv are together, but what I want to know with the writing, how is it that so many people pull for the mistress? But in real life, if the same thing was going on in their own house, they wouldn't go for it because so many people cheer for Team Liv, which is great. But in your own life, you want somebody cheering for you, like your man was rolling around and somebody else. What is the fascination with this?
I agree. It's so true. I think it's one of the main reasons Scandal is so successful, because it's provocative on that exact issue. We all want, here's why I think it is. I think that, the idea of doing what's forbidden is just really sexy and exciting. I think also the idea that there's the big love out there, that connection that is your soulmate, the one, that sexual, spiritual, emotional, intellectual connection with that one person. We want that to trump everything. And look, every marriage is difficult and has its difficulties. And you go through, patches in every marriage where you're like, wow, this is hard. Or, you go through ups and downs, and you always, I think, often secretly, we're in our day-to-day relationship, and you fantasize about what if I could jump out from it? You know what I mean? And so that's a fantasy. Then there's the other part of it, which I think is what's really compelling about it, and it's kind of what I referenced when you first asked about what's happening this season, is the nexus of fantasy meets reality. So and I think what most people find when they have affairs, frankly, is there's that erotic charge you have of that connection that's based on a fantasy. Then you bring that into reality, and suddenly you're like, wait a minute, this is different. This is like a marriage. So there's that thing of human beings exploring, but wait a minute, what is real? What's real religion? What's real connection? What's real humanity? And we want Fitz and Olivia to get there. I do. Look, Fitz and Melly have a very damaged relationship for so many reasons, which is an outrageous extension, like we talked about what Shonda does, of a lot of marriages, but Fitz and Melly are like on steroids. And yet they love each other, and yet they hate each other, and yet they try, and yet they have a family, and they are family, and they're partners, but they're not. And and there are elements of that in every marriage. So I think those issues you raise are what makes the show compelling, and there is no easy answer. And we do feel ashamed that we crave that, and yet we I want to be, he should go back to his wife. What the hell? Some people hate me. They do. And other people have fulfilled their fantasy, and it's neither. So anyway, it's a great question.
We have time for one more question over here.
Okay, so everyone wants to know, this is a big deal all over Twitter. Did you really fall asleep on Ellen, or were you just, acting?
I do this thing, it's sort of like a power nap, because I do it, as Ellen had fun with, I do this on set. It's the way I work on, when all the craziness is going on around me, in order to keep myself in the zone, I can close my eyes and I sort of drop off. And sometimes I literally fall asleep and don't even realize it for sometimes a few seconds or a minute or two. On Ellen, I kind of was halfway in. I did what I do. It's like I go and it's sort of like meditation. It's sort of like a nap. It's sort of like falling asleep. What was weird about that is I thought Ellen was going to let me do it for 5 seconds and then go, okay, that's enough. Yeah, we get it. This is boring. She kept me there for over a minute. So I'd sort of go into that zone of maybe half asleep and then go, what is she doing? Is she going to attack me? Or, So it was a little bit of both.
Well, I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. But Tony, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Good night.
Stay tuned, guys.
So, one quick announcement.